I don't think music was intended to be a solitary art form. There are definitely solitary parts of it when you are alone with your instrument, hashing out those technical passages, figuring out the musical gestures and phrasing. But ultimately, music was meant to be shared. If a pianist keeps all of their music just for themselves, what is the point? Yes, music can absolutely be therapeutic for us, so I'm not saying you should never play just for yourself. But you should also be sharing your music with others so that they can also enjoy it and benefit from its beauty. Hey there, I'm Rachel Ehring, and you're listening to the Top Music Piano Podcast. Get inspired as we discuss creative resources, trends in piano pedagogy, ways to grow your income and streamline your studio, and new ways to engage your students each week. If you are a teacher who wants to go beyond the method books to create an innovative studio that fosters lifelong music makers, you've come to the right place. Hello there, piano teachers. I am so happy that you are joining me today for this podcast. I wanted to do one more solo episode about performing to wrap up our series on performance anxiety. And this one has to do with some of the differences between solo performing and collaborative performing. And I'll also talk about some of the things I've learned from my years of performing as a collaborative pianist. At the end of this episode, I have a brand new free tool that I want to offer you, so make sure you stick around for that. When my son was little, we used to read tons of books. Actually, I still read to him every night before bed, but he reads a lot on his own now as well. But when he was younger, we used to read these books about Hot Rod Hamster. And on each page, Hot Rod Hamster would have a choice to make. And the reader, or in our case, the listener, would also get to make a choice. So the book would say something like, smooth wheels, stud wheels, take her through the mud wheels. Which would you choose? And then I would ask my son which one he would choose, and we would turn the page to see what Hot Rod Hamster chose. And there were no wrong answers, of course. The reason I bring up this book is because I've been having a lot of conversations with pianists lately, and I've been asking them, which would you choose, solo performing or collaborative performing? And the answers and the reasoning behind those answers are fascinating. Some of the reasons why pianists will choose solo performing are that it feels easier. You only have to worry about yourself, which is fair. Some pianists have a fear of messing up their partner if they're playing collaboratively or letting their partner down. I think some pianists feel like with accompanying, there are too many moving parts and things to think about when they really need to focus on their own part and playing the right notes at the right time. And these are all legitimate reasons. And then there are some more positive reasons. Maybe a pianist really loves the solo piano repertoire. I mean, there's a lot to love for sure. Or maybe they are specific solo piano performing opportunities that they are exploring. I recently had Anastasia Cunningham on the podcast, and she talked about the different performing opportunities that she has used to overcome her performance anxiety, and most of those were solo performing opportunities. But then there are the pianists who are interested in collaborative performing or who are already doing collaborative work as a pianist. Some of them are doing it out of default. It might not be their first choice. Maybe they had a student who asked them to accompany a piece for a competition, or their church choir needed an accompanist and couldn't find anyone. I think a lot of pianists accompany out of obligation because there aren't enough good pianists around who know how to accompany. If you've been here a while, you probably know that I accompany because I absolutely love it, and it is way less scary to me than performing as a soloist. I'm pretty sure I talked about that in my recent episode on performance anxiety, about how I get really nervous when I have to play alone. Sometimes if I'm just playing the introduction to a choir piece alone, I'll get so nervous feeling like I'm hanging out there all by myself. And then when the choir comes in, I immediately feel better and breathe easier. There are some other things that I love about accompanying as well. I love the process of getting to make music with other people. I don't think music was intended to be a solitary art form. There are definitely solitary parts of it when you are alone with your instrument, hashing out those technical passages, figuring out the musical gestures and phrasing. But ultimately, music was meant to be shared. If a pianist keeps all of their music just for themselves, what is the point? Yes, music can absolutely be therapeutic for us, so I'm not saying you should never play just for yourself. but you should also be sharing your music with others so that they can also enjoy it and benefit from its beauty. Back to accompanying, I love the social aspect of making music with other musicians, and I also have found that collaborative work challenges me to be a better musician. I remember one time I was preparing for a collaborative piano audition, and the clarinet professor at the school where I was working at the time offered to play through one of the pieces with me because it was a clarinet and piano piece and I needed the practice. And after we played it together, he pointed out that my dotted 16ths were sounding more like triplets. I was a little embarrassed, honestly. So I was so grateful that he had pointed it out because that would have been 100 times more embarrassing to walk into the audition not realizing that my rhythm was a little off. Often, though, the other person doesn't even have to say anything to make me a better musician. When I'm collaborating with someone who is a fantastic musician, I find myself listening to their phrasing and doing it with them. Maybe hearing places where they take a little time that I hadn't thought of, or doing dynamic contrasts that are more extreme than I would have done if I'd been playing alone. One of the greatest skills that a collaborative pianist has to develop is that of listening. And once you develop it, you will grow and expand so much by listening to your partner as they play. Now, you might be thinking, but Rachel, I don't play with any professional musicians. I'm over here accompanying 12-year-olds who can't count and don't even know the meaning of the word phrasing. But guess what? That can make you a better musician too, even though it is in a different way for sure. First of all, those listening skills are still the most important thing. If they skip a beat, you have to skip a beat. If they skip a whole section of the piece, you have to skip the whole section of the piece if you're in a performance. If they can't produce a full tone on their instrument or with their voice, you're going to have to listen and adjust the balance accordingly. And perhaps even more importantly, even though I just said listening was the most important thing, is that your teaching skills are going to be invaluable in these situations. You are going to need to communicate with them in rehearsals how to play the rhythms correctly. You can talk with them about the form and the style. You can share with them what a professional accompanist expects as far as getting them music on time and showing up to scheduled rehearsals. There are so many opportunities to teach these young musicians and demonstrate to them early on what it means to be professional and responsible. And these skills are going to help them go far in their future careers. So, should you be playing solo repertoire and performing it? Absolutely. But I would challenge you that if you aren't doing any collaborative work, it might be worth exploring. There are so many opportunities out there. And like I said, a good accompanist can be hard to find. So what if you, with your piano skills, could fill that need? I thought I'd just run through a few of the opportunities available to pianists to get paid for their skills, and maybe you'll hear something that sparks your interest or something you hadn't thought of before. Of course, playing for instrumentalists and solo singers is a big need, especially around solo and ensemble time for high school students. I think we're probably past solo and ensembles for this year, but most schools are always looking for more pianists for those events. Choirs are a big one that a lot of pianists get involved in. I personally love accompanying choirs, although if you've never done it before, there's a bit of a learning curve. And speaking of learning curves, musical theater can also be really fun. If you're new to musical theater, I would recommend starting with a kids' production if possible, because it won't be as intense as a full-blown show with adults. Most kids' theaters will do a junior version of shows so that they are shorter and simpler and not as intimidating for the kids, or perhaps the pianist. And then there are all kinds of gigs that can be solo or collaborative, such as playing for weddings, funerals, church services, dinner parties. I think I talked in my performance anxiety episode about playing for retirement homes and how that is the most welcoming, encouraging audience you will ever play for. And if you're brand new to this world and all of those sound like too much, just start by playing duets with your students or find a friend who's a singer or instrumentalist and play together just for fun. If you have a few musician friends, you can get together and take turns playing together with no expectations, no need to be anxious about mistakes or messing up. Do it purely for the love of playing music together. Now, if you're a musician who does any amount of accompanying or gig playing, or maybe want to in the future, you have probably broken out in a cold sweat when someone has asked you, "What do you charge?" I have had that same feeling. All the thoughts run through my I don't want to undercharge. I have bills to pay and my time is valuable. And I'm going to have to spend a lot of time practicing the music, but I also don't want them to think that I'm being greedy or maybe even ask someone else because the rate I quoted was too high. These are all the thoughts that have gone through my head in that split second while they're waiting for an answer. And I have to tell you, I'm in a collaborative pianist Facebook group, and that question gets asked over and over. What should I charge for this or that? So I decided to create a brand new tool to help solve this problem. It's a collaborative pianist rate calculator. And really, maybe I should have called it the gigging pianist rate calculator because it could be used for any piano gig, not just accompanying. It's possible that you've seen this tool already because I had one that I've been offering for a while. But you guys, I figured out how to make version 2.0 so much better. I don't know if I should call a calculator glamorous, but that's how I feel about this version. It's sleek, it's beautiful, it's super simple to use. You just put in your different variables and it changes the rate accordingly. It's completely free. The link is in the show notes for this episode. Now, I know show notes can feel like a treasure hunt sometimes. I know that sometimes I'm looking for those show notes and clicking and can't find them. So if you can't find the link, just go to Instagram. I'm at Rachel Ehring. DM me the word rate or just send me a DM with a message and I will send over the link for the calculator. I want to take one piece of the guesswork out of the collaborative process for you. And if you have any other questions about accompanying, you probably know it's one of my favorite things to talk about. So please send me a DM with any questions that you might have. No question is too small. Okay, that's all I have for you for this episode today. Thank you so much for joining me for this short little solo episode. Next week, I'll be back with a guest, and it's going to be a good one. If you have ever struggled with your policies about makeup lessons or monthly tuition, my guest has some thoughts and advice for you. And when I say you, I mean me, because I have some burning questions that I can't wait to ask her. So let's meet back here next week. What do you say? I'm Rachel Ehring, and you've been listening to the Top Music Piano Podcast. I'll talk with you again soon.
How do you keep up to date with all the latest trends and research into music education? How do you connect with other teachers around the world and make sure your teaching stays fresh and relevant for students of all ages and stages both now and into the future? I created our Top Music Pro membership to be the one-stop shop for music teaching resources, training, support and community, and I'd love for you to come and join us inside. With over 40 comprehensive training courses, hundreds of teaching demonstrations and lesson plans, free monthly sheet music, discounts, and all the business and pedagogy support you could ever need, Top Music Pro is the community you've been looking for. If you're ready to level up your learning from the podcast and join thousands of other teachers in our global network, head over to topmusicpro.com today.